Okay, we should get started because it's that time. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunday Forum. Let's see, we've got somebody online. That's awesome. Today is the last in our series for this month where we wanted to talk about migrant safety and justice, loving every person. And our guests today are Mary McConnell and possibly Gabriel Marcano. He is possibly en route. But in the meantime, this is all about an organization called the Worker Justice Center of New York, which was created following the merger of Farm Worker Legal Service of New York and the Workers' Rights Law Center in 2011. And today, this nonprofit labor rights organization addresses labor violations by providing Know Your Rights education and free legal services with a focus on migrant and immigrant workers. And Mary McConnell here is the Development and Grants Coordinator since 2023 at do you call it WJC? WJCNY. Mary was born and raised in an agricultural region of northern Maine and moved to New York to attend the Rochester Institute of Technology. After receiving her degree in graphic design and working for various design firms, she transitioned to grant writing. And prior to joining WJCNY, Mary worked as a grant writer for YWCA of Rochester and Monroe County for 7 years, where she worked on securing funds for housing, domestic violence, and racial equity issues. So if we do, in fact, get Gabriel, I can give you a little introduction to him. But right now, I think Mary has a full program for us, including 3 short films. So I'm going to turn it over now to Mary.
Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me okay?
No. If you stand there, that's a really nice loud.
Okay. Okay, yes, everybody can hear me now? Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about what we do. So Worker Justice Center, as Patricia mentioned, was formed in 1981 by Jim Schmidt, who was a lawyer who started seeing all kinds of atrocities as he started working with migrant and immigrant farm workers throughout New York State. So when we merged with the other places that were mentioned, when we merged, it greatly broadened our scope of offices. We now have offices in Rochester, in Kingston, New York, which is south of Albany, and in Westchester, New York. So we, between all of these offices, cover the entire state of New York. Our focus is on migrant and immigrant workers, but really we serve just about any low-wage worker that is here who is, experiencing labor abuses. So, toy here. So yeah, as you can see, so we do not only our focus is not only on legal services, but also we do outreach and education, which means we go out into the community, we go out to wherever people are gathering, like we go to churches, we go to community centers, we go directly to farm worker housing, we talk with them, figure out are you being housed safely? Are you experiencing labor abuses? Are you, any kind of labor abuse that they are experiencing that they wish to talk with us about. And we also advocate in Albany for laws that would help all New York workers. For instance, increased minimum wage, or right now, one of the things we're trying to get passed is there is no legislation, no law that says that any employer has to provide heat and or cold protection for their workers. So if it's 99 degrees in the sun with 90% humidity, there's no law that says the employer has to provide any kind of relief for that worker. Same with cold experiences. There are plenty of dairies, for instance, where the cows have to be milked every single day, no matter what the temperature or weather situations are. So that means, in the winter, when it's 20 degrees outside and you still have to get those cows into the barn, there's no law that says that they have to provide like a warming center or anything like that for employees. So that's one of the things that we're working on too. So let's just see here. So we really believe that dignity in work is a mainstay. Safe working conditions, freedom from violence and coercion. All of those things should be across the board, no matter what kind of job you're doing, those things should be a given. So we serve a wide variety of workers, but the thing that they all have in common is that they are low-wage workers. And that means that they're pretty much making minimum wage, sometimes less if they're being paid under the table. Sometimes employers hire workers for $10 an hour. And because they are hiring people who come from countries where, they're lucky if they make $1 an hour, they think $10 an hour is perfectly good wages. The other situation that we run into frequently is if they are migrant workers, sometimes they have been working in states where the minimum wage is $7.25, like say in Alabama, the minimum wage is $7.25. They come up here to pick apples or other crops, and they don't realize that they're entitled to a lot more money. And sometimes some employers are perfectly happy to allow them to believe that that's what they should be getting anyway. So yeah, we work with a wide variety of workers. The other group that we've been seeing a lot of labor abuse with recently are construction workers. So people hire construction crews and neglect to pay them or house them improperly, or, like I said, there's a wide variety of labor abuses that can occur. Where we work, like I said, is all across the state. We try to, in our outreach, we try to hit every single county in the state at least once every 2 years, which for a small operation like ours, we only have 21 people total. In our outreach and education department, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5, sometimes 6 people. So yeah, it's difficult to reach every single county every single year. But we try to go to places that we've been before, because we try to build trust with the people that we're trying to reach. So, imagine you're from another country and people just show up and they start saying, giving you information and saying, hey, have you guys been experiencing labor? No, you're just going to say, no, everything's fine. But if you show up 2 and 3 times, then they start recognizing you, or at least recognizing our organization, and they say, okay, you know what? we're being housed in like really horrible situations. There's no electricity, there's no plumbing, there's, you know, like, what can you do to help us? So part of our outreach and education is building trust with the clients that we serve too, so that they feel comfortable enough at least to interact with us and to say, we need help. So, our legal assistance that we provide is a lot of what we try to do frequently is to get our clients to advocate for themselves. So many times, the kind of relief that they're seeking can be handled if they fill out a form correctly and get it in. But they don't, I mean, they don't know that, or they are having language barriers or what have you. So we can direct them to like an online portal, and one that is hopefully still being served in Spanish or their language, and have them help them fill this, you know, the information out correctly. We also take people to court and take employers to court, and do mediation between employers and employees. Sometimes it's as easy as just saying like, hey, we're lawyers. You owe this worker $500. Please give it to him. And they do. But some employers, it's getting harder and harder. And especially with this administration, people feel emboldened to kind of dig their heels in on labor abuses because they know that the agencies that are supposed to regulate labor abuses are being either defunded or deregulated, or, you know, like, it's not always a great situation. So there's, like, for instance, Department of Labor has a huge backlog of cases. OSHA, same thing. Like OSHA's inspectors, you know, there's like what? A handful of inspectors for the entire state. So it's very difficult. So like I said, our outreach and education goes directly into worker housing situations. We, until recently, had a lot of situations like you're seeing here, where presenters, you know, somebody from our organization would present workshops on, you know, knowing your labor rights. Those workshops have been very scarcely attended lately because the farm workers are fearful of coming out into the community. So it's making our job both like more necessary and more difficult to do, unfortunately. So, you know, it means a lot more travel for us if they're not going to come to the community center for a Know Your Rights presentation. Then we have to travel out to see them at more individual places. So it kind of slows down the process a little bit. One of the things that we have to do, unfortunately, is focus on human trafficking. We have 2 human trafficking workers, with hopefully a 3rd one being hired soon. Our human trafficking director, Renan Salgado, just marked his 25th year of working with us on human trafficking issues. And it is something that, you know, Renan puts it beautifully. He's like, when people are desperate for earning a livelihood, they will do things that they might not realize would lead them to situations that mean them giving up their rights as human beings. So, so that's what human traffickers are looking for, right? People who are in extremely vulnerable situations. And if you're here as an undocumented worker without work, and somebody comes along and says to you, oh, no problem, you know, we can get you a job, just follow me. And that person, you know, can find himself very quickly, you know, owing lots of money, or having his passport taken away, or like any number of situations where they are losing their freedoms. And I'll give you a really brief story, one that happened recently. I'm just trying to think of like the best one. So a woman in Peru was online, and she was looking at her Facebook account, and she saw that this guy that she had gone to high school with was here in America and was in New York State. And she messaged him, and she's like, hey, you know, I didn't know you had moved to New York. And right away she got an answer from him, and he said, yep, I'm in New York and I have my own restaurant. You should come visit us sometime. She's like, maybe I will, you know, and he kept messaging her and encouraging her to come to America. She had 2 children, school-aged children, and he kept saying, you know, you can come. It's very easy to find work here. Even if you don't speak English, you can come, and you can stay. I have a house, you can stay in my house. And you know, she did it. She came, and she paid someone to enter the country illegally, and brought her children with her. And as soon as she got to the town where her friend was, he started saying, okay, you owe me for rent, you owe me for food, you owe me for transportation, you owe me for utilities, you owe me, like, all of a sudden, she owes him tons of money that she doesn't have. She just paid like all her money to get here. So she found a job working as a chambermaid for a hotel, and she was paying him hundreds of dollars, and somehow it never seemed to be quite enough, you know, like somehow he never gave her like an accounting of what she owed. He just said, oh, you still owe me $300, or you still owe me this or that. And he finally came to her and he said, okay, if you want to make some real money, why don't you come work in my restaurant? And so she did, in addition to working as a chambermaid. So she's working 2 jobs now, and she's doing kind of like menial work at the restaurant, and notices that some of the waitresses are leaving with customers. And she's like, what's this all about? And he says, well, if you really want to make some money, you know, you're going to have to like go with these customers, and basically prostituting her. And she was like, get me out of here, please. And so bravely, she contacted another organization that led her to us. And we're helping her get a T visa, which is a special visa that can be extended to victims of trafficking, and allows them to stay here in the country legally while they assist with their case and help law enforcement with their case. So that's just like one of many. And you can see how easy it is to kind of be lured into thinking that this, you know, that if you come here it's going to be like, roses and glasses of wine or, like a terrific situation for yourself. So, a lot of people wonder like how people can be trafficked, how can you allow yourself to be trafficked? It's so much easier than you would imagine. So that's one of the things that we're involved with. And then advocacy, like I said, we advocate for laws, many different kinds of laws that would help all New Yorkers and not just the population that we serve. So this is a short list of some of the things that we help with. Wage theft. Some people have said, well, what is a wage theft? And I explained it to a 10-year-old recently. I was like, imagine if you mowed the lawn for this guy, and this guy, he said, you know what, I'm going to pay you $20 if you mow my lawn. And you finish mowing the lawn and you go to him to collect your $20. And he was like, no, I don't think so. See you later, kid. Imagine that happening on like a much larger scale to like not only one person, but like groups of people. So yeah, it happens frequently. It happens all across the state in many different kinds of situations. And, like I said recently, is it happening in New York? Yes, it is. Is it happening in Rochester? Yes, it is. And that's what we help with. And like all of these things are happening in Rochester. One of the things that we've been focused on is farm worker housing. So when people are here on H-2A visas, the employer has to provide housing as a stipulation of them being here on H-2A visas. There's no regulation, especially for small farmers. There's no regulation on what kind of housing they have to provide. For large organizations, for like, the corporate farming places, there's like some oversight and some regulations, but for the smaller farmers, no regulation. And, they, like I said, they can have like no heating, no electricity, no plumbing, no. So, imagine living for like 6 months in basically, a shack that, and people have described, living with like rodents or insect infestations. And so that's one of the things that we are trying to not only change, we're trying to change like on a legislative level, that even smaller farms would have the kind of oversight situations that the larger farms do. I'm going to ask and see if anybody has any questions so far on what I've been saying. Go ahead.
How successful have you been in addressing all of these things in the courts, or not even? It sounded like one of them, you didn't even go to court. The guy just said, okay, I'll give you the $500.
Yeah, I mean, it is, it varies, like it's not like we have 100% track record, but if we have to go to court with an employer, then we do. And if it can be solved without going to court, then we try that first. What we do is difficult and takes a long time. Like finding legal justice through the court system takes a long time. We have cases that have been going for years, quite frankly. And like, for instance, one of the cases that has been going on since I started in 2023, which, is not a long time ago, but we're bringing a class action lawsuit against the for-profit company that is running the Batavia Correctional Center. So the Batavia Correctional Center houses the people who are picked up by ICE and are awaiting a decision about their status. So the for-profit company hires the workers or hires the people who are being detained to do the work that otherwise would be done by people in the community, right? So they're not hiring kitchen workers from the community and paying those kitchen workers fair wages and tax. They hire the detainees for $1 a day and to do the work. So those detainees are doing landscaping work, kitchen work, janitorial work, and being paid, and no matter how long they work for, they're paid $1 a day. So they can work 4 hours and be paid $1. They can work 8 hours and be paid $1. So, and it's not like, it gets worse and worse. It's not like the company says, okay, thank you so much for working, here's your $1 bill. What it is $1 worth of credit in their company-run store, which they decide what's in that store and they decide how much it costs. So you could work all week long in order to buy shampoo for yourself, or, if you didn't want to use the all-purpose soap that's in the shower room or something, you could work 2 weeks to buy yourself a sweatshirt to stay warm because, they're not going to be heating it if it's a, for-profit place. That costs money. So yeah, we are bringing a class action lawsuit against the owners of that place, who are also getting taxpayer dollars to run it. So yeah, that's been going on for years. The reason is because they also have their own lawyers and they are appealing and they are slowing things down. So yeah, when you say, how successful have you been? Fairly successful. It takes a lot of time though, so yeah. Hi.
Hi. I wanted to, I have done a lot of lobbying with farm workers, specifically with Alianza Agrícola. And I'm wondering what bills you're working on right now. For example, are you supporting New York for All?
Yep.
And if you could just give some examples.
You know what? I hate to disappoint you, but that is the program that I know the least about.
Okay.
I know that, like, for instance, one of the things that we successfully lobbied for was the Green Light Bill a couple
Yeah.
years back, which allows immigrants who are here to get a New York State driver's license,
Right.
so that they can be employable in more than, just doing agriculture, and so that it's not a barrier to their employment, so that transportation isn't a barrier for them. That's one of the things that we successfully fought for. Yeah, New York for All, we're definitely involved in that one. We're definitely involved. I can't remember the exact name of the bill that would provide for regulation for employers providing heat and or cold protection.
Okay. I just learned last night about, it's not a bill yet, it's a petition, but actually the Farm Bureau is also involved in it, which would, to protect farm workers in this current and anti-immigrant environment. And I wondered, who is the person in your organization now who does some of that work?
Okay, so there's two people who are involved in our advocacy work. Roxana Siaka is here in Rochester, and she's very involved in the community. She, attends a lot of one of the things that is her local project is raising Rochester's local minimum wage. But she often travels to Albany when the legislature is in session. Emma Krejci, who is located in our Kingston office, kind of is the person who selects which programs we advocate for, or which bills we support. So Emma is the person who, okay, yeah. So, yeah, she's such a powerhouse person. Yeah, she's amazing. So yeah, but like I said, unfortunately, that's the program that I know the least about. They're off doing whatever. Who wants to see a movie? Let's, don't all raise your hands at once. All right, so I want to make sure that you guys get to know our clients. So the movies that you're about to see were made with, you'll see actual clients that we have helped. One is a victim of human trafficking. One was a victim of sexual harassment. And one was a victim of wage theft. And each of them, there's so much more to their stories than what you'll see. They're giving like a fairly for public consumption version of what they experienced. So, but you'll meet them and you'll hear their stories. So after you see them, please feel free to ask any questions that you have as well.
Which one are we going to start with?
Any of them, it's fine.
Mi nombre es Elvis. Llegué a Nueva York desde Guatemala con mi papá cuando tenía 13 años. Nos fuimos porque era muy peligroso en el área donde vivíamos. Nos sentimos afortunados de poder salir y tener un nuevo comienzo, pero fue un gran cambio. Vivir en Westchester era muy caro y teníamos problemas para pagar los gastos. Así que cuando comencé la escuela secundaria, también comencé a trabajar. Mi primo me ayudó a conseguir trabajo en un restaurante local.
I'm noticing like a huge glare and it's making it difficult to read the subtitles. Is anyone else having that problem or no? Okay, great. Okay. It's hard from here. Okay, good.
Fue muy difícil ir a la escuela y trabajar a tiempo completo. Me levantaba a las 6 de la mañana para ir a la escuela. Llegaba a casa a las 3:30 de la tarde y empezaba mi turno en el restaurante a las 5. Trabajaría hasta después de cerrar A veces no llegaba a casa hasta las 2 de la madrugada. También trabajaba los fines de semana. Fue muy agotador y me causó mucho estrés. Como yo, la mayoría de mis compañeros de trabajo eran inmigrantes. Trabajamos duro, pero el jefe nos gritaba todo el tiempo y no nos pagaba casi nada. Mi puesto era de ayudante de mesero y solo me pagaban $25 el día. Varios años después, también comencé a trabajar de mesero, pero por eso solo me pagaban $2 la hora. No lo sabía en ese momento, pero mi empleador estaba violando muchas leyes laborales. Esto continuó durante toda la escuela secundaria y aproximadamente un año después de graduarme. Por mucho tiempo, mis compañeros de trabajo y yo simplemente aceptamos el maltrato y pensamos que no había nada que pudiéramos hacer para cambiarlo. Teníamos miedo y el jefe lo sabía. Pero después de años de ser explotados, decidimos no aguantar más. Recibimos ayuda del Centro de Justicia para Trabajadores para presentar una demanda contra la compañía.
Elvis and 8 of his co-workers showed great courage in their decision to pursue justice. After a year-long fight, we reached a settlement on their behalf, recovering money to make up for lost wages and compensation for being discriminated against because of their race and ethnicity. Their solidarity is a powerful statement, proof that employers can be held accountable for exploiting workers, no matter where the worker is from. Justice can be achieved when workers speak up about abuse.
A través de esta experiencia aprendí que todos los trabajadores tenemos derechos sin importar de dónde venimos. Ahora sé cómo defenderme a mí y a los demás.
Mi nombre es Sergio. Como niño en Guatemala tenía muchas ambiciones. Quería estudiar para ser abogado, pero dejé de estudiar después de mi primer año de universidad. Mi familia estaba pasando por dificultades económicas y yo quería ayudarlos. Un día se me acercó un hombre en quien pensé que podía confiar. Me dijo que tenía un trabajo esperándome en los Estados Unidos y que me podía conseguir una visa de trabajo por unos miles de dólares. Después de una entrevista en el consulado estadounidense, me dieron una visa H-2B y viajé en avión desde Guatemala a la ciudad de Nueva York. Pero cuando llegué nada salió como esperaba. Nadie vino a buscarme al aeropuerto y no había nadie esperándome. Finalmente me di cuenta que todo había sido un engaño. Durante varios meses sobreviví haciendo cualquier trabajo que pude encontrar. Pero estaba preocupado por mi visa, que estaba a punto de vencer, y por la deuda que aún tenía con la persona que me había ayudado a obtener. Terminé en Hudson Valley trabajando para un hombre que prometió ayudarme a pagar mi deuda y a traer a mis hermanos aquí también. Pero terminó que ese hombre me explotó y abusó físicamente de mí. Entonces el hombre me envió a trabajar en una empresa donde nos forzó a trabajar 80 horas a la semana. Trabajamos en condiciones de calor extremo y no nos pagaban adecuadamente. El jefe también nos acosó sexualmente y amenazó con deportarnos si denunciábamos el abuso. Cuando otro trabajador y yo logramos escapar, el patrón contactó a inmigración y terminamos en la corte de inmigración.
Sergio is a survivor of labor trafficking. He is one among the thousands of people who are trafficked in New York State each year. Sergio served as a witness for a U.S. Department of Labor investigation. which helped him stop those who exploited him from doing the same to others. After he came forward, we helped Sergio apply for a T visa. This is a form of immigration relief available to victims of trafficking. We stopped Sergio's deportation and recently filed an application for him to become a lawful permanent resident of the United States.
Mi experiencia fue muy dolorosa, pero ahora he logrado una buena vida para mí y mi familia. Estoy orgulloso de contar lo que me pasó. Espero que compartir mi historia ayude a evitar que otros sufran el mismo tipo de abuso y explotación.
Mi nombre es Yesenia. Nací en México y vine a los Estados Unidos para estar con mi esposo hace 15 años. Vivimos en California durante muchos años, pero cuando mi hijo mayor tuvo su primera hija, me mudé a Nueva York para ayudar con mi nieta. Vivimos en una zona muy rural y el primer trabajo que pude encontrar aquí fue en una granja lechera. Nunca había trabajado en una granja. Fue mi responsabilidad acomodar las máquinas mientras un compañero de trabajo iba a buscar las vacas y las llevaba a la sala de ordeño. Luego conectábamos y desconectábamos cada vaca de las máquinas de ordeña. Revisábamos si tenían mastitis y desinfectábamos sus tetas con yodo. En cada turno, con solo 2 personas, ordeñábamos 1,200 vacas. Era muy difícil, generalmente yo era la única mujer que trabajaba junto a los hombres. A veces me sentía incómoda, pero necesitaba el trabajo. Trabajé en esta lechería durante casi 3 años a intervalos. Había mucho racismo contra los trabajadores hispanos. Soy residente legal de los Estados Unidos, pero creo que mi supervisor pensó que era indocumentada. Por eso pensó que podía tratarme como quisiera sin consecuencias. Un día se me acercó para decirme que iba a haber despidos, pero que podía asegurar mi trabajo si me acostaba con él. Me dijo que si lo reportaba nadie me haría caso, que nadie me creería. Cuando se lo reporté a mi jefe me despidieron. Me sentí muy vulnerable, pero de manos cruzadas no me iba a quedar. Hice una llamada buscando ayuda y me contacté con el Centro de Justicia para Trabajadores.
We filed a lawsuit on Yesenia's behalf, charging her employer with discrimination and illegal retaliation. Yesenia was driven to seek justice. She met with our team many nights to build her case, often after long shifts at her new job. After 3.5 years, Yesenia finally got closure when she obtained a settlement. Since then, she has continued to advocate for others, especially farm worker women fighting for the right to a safe workplace free from sexual harassment and retaliation.
Presenté la demanda para hacer un ejemplo, para mostrarles a otras mujeres y hombres que no deben tener miedo de hablar si sufren un abuso o falta de respeto.
So I know that it might have been a little bit difficult to read the subtitles. I'll give you a no. No, everybody kind of got the gist of what was happening. Yeah. So like Elvis being paid $2 an hour to work, all day long. And then Yesenia being fired for reporting that that her job wouldn't. It's difficult, right? It's difficult to talk about, and it's difficult. you can see in their eyes the trauma that they've experienced and how they're sort of right back there when they're talking about it. So, yeah, our clients go through a lot of trauma, and and as each of them said, like for Yesenia, it took over 3 years in the courts to reach a settlement. And for Elvis, same thing, years in the courts. For Sergio, years going through legal systems. So that is what we do. Those are the people that we help on a daily basis. We are supported through government grants. At the moment, it's New York State government grants. We had a federal grant that is coming to an end, and it was specifically for our human trafficking program. And they have declined to offer that grant again. We saw an opportunity in another federal grant, which would have, one of the stipulations of that was to provide the names and addresses of all of our clients. We're like, no, we are not doing that. So, so happily we are able to support our work through government grants, New York State government grants, through foundation grants. We have had some extremely generous foundation grants, but also through individual donations. So that, in a nutshell, is who Worker Justice Center is. Do you guys have any additional questions for, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I'd be interested in the volume of the problem. Do you have any way of describing it?
So, okay, so
And I'm speaking of New York State, which I think is pretty advanced in their attempt to deal with it.
Sure. Like I said, we are a smaller organization. We have 21 employees that serve the entirety of the state. Our outreach and education people regularly each year, I would say between 3,000 and 5,000 people they reach. Our legal team, again, this is like, it's everything from like helping them fill out forms properly to cases like Yesenia's or Elvis's. And they, at any one point, have several hundred cases that they're working on throughout the year. I know that if you go to the New York State Human Trafficking website, which is part of the NewYork.gov system of websites, they, I think, it's in the like mid 100s of cases, but they are also counting. We deal mostly with labor trafficking. We have a caseload of, I want to say, between 30 and 40 cases of human trafficking each year. That's not the total number of labor trafficking cases that are happening in New York State, but New York State, when they count human trafficking, they don't generally differentiate between labor trafficking and sex trafficking. So their numbers are like in the mid 100s, like 500 to 600 cases. So
You see really a small part of what the problem is.
exactly. And to make matters worse, especially on the human trafficking side, we don't often see cases. This is the sad reality of things. We don't often see cases until more than one labor abuse is sort of piled up. So like sometimes if you're experiencing wage theft, for instance, if you're being asked to work overtime off the clock, but you're not being paid overtime, a worker can say, okay, you know what? I know that this is happening, but I'd rather have this job that's paying me X number of dollars than no job at all, you know? And if you add in sexual harassment on top of that, say, then it becomes a little less tolerable for the worker. And if you add on like physical abuse on top, you know, everyone has like the point where they're like, not everyone seeks our services. Some people just like leave their job and decide to find another job. Because they are like under the impression that that it's going to be extremely expensive no matter which lawyer they contact. All of our, like I said, all of our services are free. There's plenty of lawyers who specifically target immigrant populations and say, you know what, I'll help you out, but it's going to cost you this much money to bring a case. So, you know, and then, you know, there's plenty of like scams that are being perpetuated by people against the immigrant population, either because they don't know the language, that, you know, they don't know the laws, they don't know who to trust, they don't, you know, like there's a huge range of reasons that they don't bring charges against their employers. So yeah. Hi.
I'm curious about the cooperation with major organizations. Apparently, you know, you're being in Rochester, I take it mostly dealing with whatever, Finger Lakes in Western New York situations. And I'm wondering if you have cooperative relationships with the Rochester Immigrant Coalition.
We
And
do.
I'm
So
also curious about with any of the, what are the major employers that you're working with? Farmers, dairy farmers, crop farmers, and whether or not they have been subject to any investigations or raids by ICE.
yes, all of those things you just mentioned are spot on. That's basically who we work with. And you know, oftentimes it's difficult to, the thing we run into is, so if they're migrant workers, they're here for a few months and then they leave and they either go back down south or they go to another state. And it's, you know, if we say, yep, we can help you out in this situation, but it's probably going to take like a year and a half for you to get the money that has been owed to you. Sometimes it's not worth it for them to press charges. They'd rather just kind of like take their chances with the next work opportunity that they have. Some people like Yesenia who are here in one place for a while have an easier time. And, you know, if they can be patient while things work themselves out, then they can get relief. But yes, we do have many organizations that we work with throughout the state, not only here in Western New York, but like in the Hudson Valley region, in the Adirondacks, many organizations. Central New York, we have many partners that we work with. You know, frequently they refer clients to us. You know, there's many organizations that do outreach to these groups we distinguish ourselves by being able to provide legal services to them as well, and to help them get, what justice they can get. Yeah.
How about ICE activities in that area?
ICE, they are going to do whatever they feel like doing. So,
You have some experience of responding to some of those?
so for instance, this case happened very shortly after I started working. Our lawyers were called to Rochester General Hospital. And a worker had been working in a factory, I believe, and had been injured on a piece of equipment, like severely injured on a piece of equipment that his employer was providing. And he was taken to the hospital, and the employer called ICE to say, like, this guy is here, you should just deport him. And I know, and it just, our lawyers weren't able to keep this person from being deported. And so when it works for the employer, it works out great for them, and no more problem, because if that employee hadn't been deported, then he would have had to tell OSHA why he was injured and where he was injured and what kind of equipment he was using and was it being used properly, and was, like all these questions that OSHA is going to come in and ask. And now that he is no longer in the country, the employer can hire the next person to work at that job.
I would just like to know how the 3 people who are featured in the films, are they safe today?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they all have legal status. So which is a nice thing. Yeah. So
Mary, we need to finish. One more question from Ed. But while we have everyone's attention, don't forget next week is October 5th, and we will have another. Pat has been good at recruiting some people from the University of Rochester, talking about climate change. This is our Caring for Creation Month, environmentalism. These are a professor and grad students in the Ice Core and Atmospheric Chemistry Lab at U of R, and they'll be giving us some information about the science that they're documenting. We'll let Ed have one more question, and then we have to go to service. You're welcome to join us in the service.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Ma'am, I know that you had your hand raised. Did you want to ask a question?
Just a quick question.
Sure.
Have you approached Evan Dawson for being on Connections, or have you been on Connections?
Yes, I have tried to approach Evan Dawson, and I have received just crickets, like just no response whatsoever.
Okay, well, others of us can do it for you.
Thank you. Just like zero. And this is even with, I met someone who was like, oh, I'll put you in touch with them, and Megan Mack. And even with that sort of introduction, just crickets. And so we would love to. I would love to, go and talk on their show.
I guess I have the last question.
Okay. Okay.
Assuming no one else here. Is this just an immigration problem, or does it go deeper than that?
When you say immigration problem.
Well, your clients that you've shown were all immigrants. Are there abuses that you get that go beyond immigration, that are citizens or low-wage people, or are you dealing only with immigration people?
Sure. I mean, we take labor abuse situations that happen to, I don't think it's, no, to answer your question, I don't think it's only an immigration problem. The reason that we deal with so many immigrants is because they are often the people who will take these low-wage jobs. They are the people who are the chambermaids in hotels, or the janitors, or the, people who pick the crops, or the people who do the grunt work at construction sites, or, like, often those people are taking the low-wage jobs. I'll give you another example, though. Like, for instance, we had a case where there's a Dunkin' Donuts, and I can't remember this, in like a small town here in Western New York. And the teenage staff was told that they had to clock out if no one was in the store. I'm sorry, it's not funny. But the things that employers try to get away with. So, the teenage staff didn't know any better. And who's going to think when somebody comes into the store to be like, oh, wait, sir, I have to clock back in. No, they're just going to be like, oh, how can I help you? No. So like, immigration comes into it when those are the people who are taking low-wage jobs, but there are plenty of other people who are in low-wage jobs who are experiencing the same kinds of abuses. So thank you. I appreciate you
Mary.
guys. Thank you for being such a great audience. If you want to take any of these things that I brought just for you, feel free. They tell a little bit more about like our history and the kinds of work you do, share it with your friends and family. Feel free. And if any of you want to talk to me afterwards, also feel free.
Thank you. Organization you also. Thank you. Different than working for long.
Well,
Although they have their challenges.
right. In some ways, a lot of things are similar. A lot of things are different, but a lot of things are similar. Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was a Vista volunteer back in the 60s.
No kidding. Where was there?
I was in Wayne County.
No kidding.
Yeah, Wayne County Rural Minnesota.